Mm-hmm.
And when you said it, I said, ah, boy, I said, this man understand this thing. Because that is something we also miss, right? Because we are so locked in, and this is not an attack on systems or anything so, because you must have procedures, you must have structures, right? But we are so locked into this, like a box, like a bubble, that there is no wiggle room,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because what that guy would have done, because you would have had to be there for the whole entire experience, he was totally shut down. And for him to even attempt that is so important. So we really have to create these spaces, expand that box, burst that balloon, where these young people could realize, hey, I could still be me and participate. You mentioned at the starting, there are two guests joining us.
Mm-hmm.
When you all reached out to me last week, I said, right, I will invite Isaiah John and Emmanuel Villavana. They have been with us for the past 10 years plus. They have worked throughout within our programs, whether it's in YT, RST, St. Jude's, schools, communities, throughout. They are Roots Foundation. When I reach out to Isaiah, now they are youth. With Isaiah is 24. When I reach out to Isaiah, I said, Isaiah, the station wants us to come back. I want you and Emmanuel. This was Isaiah's response. Nah, empty man. I and Emmanuel do enough interviews. Take some of the younger ones who you have coming on this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and I'm saying, I like to use these as real examples because I could have said, hey, I the boss. I in charge.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I want you and Emmanuel. Isaiah is Roots Foundation created this space that Isaiah and others so comfortable that Isaiah could say, Naim Tima, send, and he called names. He said, send so and so, they coming on a little later, and right. So once a youth could have that, could be like to use the word empowerment, it is an abused word, but we don't really empower the young people, right? Or we empower them up to this level because the balance is for us. The balances of us. So, yes, society has a real responsibility and a role in our actions, not just what we say. Else we keep on having talk shops and sounding nice, either on the pulpit, on the podium, or wherever we choose to get an audience, especially of young people. They have to see that words in action, right?
Mr. Soloway, I'm curious to know, the example that you just gave with Mr. John, Mr. Villalobos. Uh, it speaks to giving youth an opportunity to express their true thoughts and be able to actually say, no, I disagree with this. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. There may be those who are watching and saying, well, that was disrespectful. As you said, the attitude you could have taken was, I'm the boss. You're supposed to be listening to me. So, is there a fine line between allowing young people to express their true thoughts and opinions and even make such decisions? There's a fine line between that and society's approach to thinking, hold on, that's completely disrespectful. We are not tolerating such.
Boy, there's a all of us grew up with this saying from Granny. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's not
Mm-hmm.
what you do, it's how you do it.
Yep.
Right? Now Isaiah's response was, nah, why are you doing that, boy? He said, nah, empty man. And it was true. If you go through our YouTube channel, you will see. As a matter of fact, Isaiah and Emmanuel have been the face of Roots Foundation for years, right? They were just 10 years plus, right? Emmanuel is 10 this year, Isaiah is 10 next year, right? And what he's saying is true. Give the other younger ones who now come in that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't want those who came after Isaiah and Emmanuel to feel, nah, because people already refer to Emmanuel and Isaiah as my children, my sons, the empty my sons. You don't want the others who come in after to feel, nah, boy, there is a clique. There's no clique in Roots Foundation, right? Every youth and adults, every youth have a voice. Every youth have a space. And we going back to last week, they must feel that they are a part of this organization. The youth must feel they are a part of society. You cannot want them to contribute to something they don't feel a part of. Let me real, Kitan, we're not doing that. So why we want young people, they must contribute to society, they must give back. But then they don't feel a part of. Well, they will contribute to what they feel a part of. And right now, society is competing with gangs. Let's be real.
Well,
we have 100 something. We could have 5 gangs in Trinidad, 5 alone. But the entire society is still competing with those 5 gangs. Because this place is where these young people feel a part of. We could be on the outside looking and saying, boy, there's a violent structure, there's a violent this. Whatever it is, they feel a part of.
Mrs. Olwasi, do you think that we have if this society is competing with gangs,
We are competing.
Is it that we have a failing society, or is it that society is failing others?
I wouldn't use terms like that, or even say we're going down well, you're probably at the top of the slippery slope. I wouldn't think we're going down a slippery slope, or we actually have failed society. You know, when you look at that definition of a failed society, we are, thank God we are not there. But we are failing some in society. So you're correct. We are failing some, right? And listen, we have to do better. I told you before we started that interview last week sparked some serious conversations, even conversations of frustration, because I always have conversations with my colleagues, meaning others in the NGO world or who doing the work we're doing, and people are getting frustrated because they are saying, in most cases, the business community not supporting the work we are doing. And in other cases, we are asking the government, let us support you. Because the government is doing a lot, but we on the ground, we can reach further, right? Last week, the Ministry of Youth Development and National Services had Youth Week, an amazing week for young people. It ended with a spectacular competition, right? I went through 1 or 2 days and I saw a lot of young people. But you would know the ones that need to really be there, and they wouldn't really come out so. No, people might say, always saying that, they wouldn't come out, They'd have things there for them and they wouldn't come out. How we'll get them out? It's more than just posting something on social media. It's more than just, listen, it's a trust issue to it. It's a trust issue. Because I invited a young man, right? He really wanted to come. And then the rain fell, and he said, boy, Mtima, I stuck home. And I understand, right? But in my intention, I wanted to go for him. Because that way, I would have unstuck you. You would have been unstuck, right? So sometimes you have to do that, right? I invited some young men from a community to a program. All of them said yes to come in. I went up the morning to pick them up. When I went up, I saw one well-dressed, ready to go. I said, where them fellas? He said, boy, I doubt them coming out, And I took that one, and he stayed until he graduated from the program, right? But interestingly, the last day, now he made the hours, but the last day they had an assessment, and he called me and said, I have a diarrhea, I don't know how I get this diarrhea. And I understand what's going on with him. That's fear. Because in his mind, he's saying, boy, it's a test. Right? He get trauma going back to school days. But he still graduated. He made the hours. Right? The contact hours. And for the graduation, he called me. And they had 30-something-year-old man I'm talking about. They don't know youth, A young man called me, Mtima, You have to come to graduation. I said, boy, tired, no, reach home. No, 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 no. Because he wanted to celebrate this milestone with somebody whom he looked up to. And somebody said, boy, it's because of you. No, I'm not saying that you, Keaton, the Prime Minister, everybody have to do that. But guess what? You have the NGOs on the ground who doing it. So we need the government to work with us, and we need the private sector to endorse us with their funds. Don't just put on the news how much profit you make for this year, you know. Put some of that back on the ground with the hard targets. You're already working with the soft targets, right? Let us make these young people feel they are a part of this society. That is all we're saying.
Well, Mr. Solwazi, how does the 2 points I want to get into before we take our break, and the first is, how does one build trust and confidence in an individual who has been exposed to vulnerable situations? Not a vulnerable person, as you corrected me last week, but somebody who's at risk of vulnerable situations. How does one build trust and confidence to someone who has been exposed their entire life to these situations?
Very good question. And in building that trust has nothing to do with the individual, has to do with you. Keaton, I always say, we as adults, there's no when people mama guying us. Watch of them, they just talk. Hear me. So why we feel we could mama guy them? Why do we also feel that a person who is in an underprivileged situation, uneducated, right? I have to always quote this gentleman because that helped me to reform me to who I am in a large part, right? And the deceased father Pantin, Jerry Pantin, said, he called it the gospel according to Serval. Respectful intervention, right? We always feel I know how to solve your problem, but they know how to solve the problem, they just got the tools. So you have to intervene respectfully. Lack of cultural arrogance. We like to say, when I was small, and you know, the time different, boy. The time different now, right? Yes, it had peer pressure back then when you were small. But look at the peer pressure now with online. So is the world joining in to give you peer pressure? So don't talk about when you were small, lack of cultural arrogance, right? Attentive listening. You don't just listen with your ears. And as parents, you know, you have to listen with your eyes because body language speaks louder than what comes out of the mouth, right? And the philosophy of ignorance. As soon as we come to university, we feel we're real bright, so we know everything. You don't know nothing because you're not living my life. I don't care what book you read. I don't care what theory you come across. A guy and us had a big falling out for that, right? Because my young people on the ground working, you come with theories. Hello, they're on the ground working, boss.
Well,
Don't make them feel they don't know what they're doing.
all they teach you is theory, sir.
Well,
all they teach you is theory. But that's the thing with Solwazi, and I'm glad you responded the way you did. It leads perfectly to the second area I wanted to get into, removing stigmas, because we often, as you just mentioned, thinking. I need to stop feeling and thinking that these individuals are uneducated, are incapable, unwilling. Those are the stigmas attached to, you mentioned this YTC, and there's this whole stigma. If he ends up in YTC or if she ends up there, that's it.
yeah.
You spoke to the potential of these individuals and exemplified it through poetry, through artwork. So then, how is that? How do we now break that chain, that stigma? You spoke about cultural perceptions, and us thinking that we know everything. How do we go about now, kind of intervening in our own mindset? That's
Ah, Kitan, you realize it, and I hope the nation understanding this conversation. It's not about them, it's about us. Boss, when I started to work in when it was YTC, I started to volunteer there back in 2005 or 4, somewhere about there. I had to reconfigure my mind. Firstly, I do not want to know what you are charged for. That is not important. What is important is what you intend to do with your life from now onwards. I always tell my boys and them in YTRC, I say, boss, I don't care what you charge for. What I care about is when you return to society, what are you going to do? Right? So it's about us. All these things, stigma is about our mindset, how we, because I always say also, how I view you is how I will treat you.
Mm-hmm.
And if I view you as a punk, I will treat you as a punk. But if I view as, oh, this Mr. Keaton, a respectable person in society, yes, sir, no, sir, okay, sir, thank you, sir, you're welcome, sir. Outside of that is, the bomb to you, yeah, I'm not man, we want, I will treat you how I view you. Society, we need to change our perspectives when it comes to certain groups in the society, and especially where they come from, right? We need to change our mindset. So this was a really important one. When there was a heinous crime that took place and 2 young boys were charged. And we are the public, Keaton, when things come over the news, we say, oh, hang them, kill them, this. Because we are wild up, because we scared too.
Mm-hmm.
As a society, we are scared, right? And when that act came up, I voiced my opinion, bam, bam, bam. And when I went to, it was YTC at the time, the Friday, the superintendent, he said, Imam, come. I don't know where we're going. And I followed him, and he took me to this quarters. And 2 little boys stood up with attention. So I watching the little boys. So I trying to figure out, no, what's going on here? And then when I looked at the silhouette, I realized, oh my God, these are the 2 boys. And I turned to the superintendent and I said, but them is children? He said, this is what society needs to say. And I'm telling you here, tears flow down my eyes. Because I was once said, kill them, hang them, shoot them, this, that. But hurt people, going back to the theories, hurt people, right? You're not condoning that act that those 2 boys did, but find out what would have drove 2 young boys to commit such a heinous crime. And I worked with these 2 young, well, not only I, there are a lot of volunteers, there are the officers. I don't single out myself because it could never be a one-man. This is not Gotham is Batman alone, and this is real life. It takes all of us to make a difference in somebody's lives. I was just one of the individuals, or Roots Foundation was just one of the organizations that intervene in these young men's lives, right? And I know we're strapped for time and stuff like that, but when my lads leave, when my boys leave in YTC, I just have like a party for them. I just ask them, what do you want to eat? I just challenge them. What do you want to eat? Because I know when you go into the gallows, you have your last meal. So you go out to the free world, you have your first meal. Because here why Kitan and here why Nation, when somebody who is not conscious really returning to society, here what they do. They take off the clothes they have on because they blight clothes. So right? They go down Carnage and they take a sea bath to bathe off that blight. Change into the fresh kit. Eat a roti and copulate, have some sort of intimate relations. If that is the extent of your freedom, you're going to go back in prison or somebody's going to kill you while you're out here. So I asked my boys, what you want to eat? I remember that time one said pizza. I know the length of time he inside of there, he knows nothing about Pizza Hut. So I bought Pizza Hut with the cinnamon sticks. He watching it. Mr. Mtima, what is this? I start to laugh. I say, you're inside here too long. You call that breadsticks, right? So that is, apart from that, they have to do three things. They have to tell all of us, what did you learn while you were inside here? That is one. What life lessons, and the learning is life lessons. What life lessons did you learn? What did somebody say to you, or what did somebody do that impacted your life positively? And the third thing is, what are your plans when you exit that gate? Because Keaton, if they do not have nation, if they don't have a plan, they're going to die on the streets, or they're going to go back now into adult prison because they passed the age based on how long they were there.
Yeah.
What life lesson did you learn? What impacted your life? And what is the plan? Right? And we eat, they say that, and I told all the other lads now, tell them something positive. Now, this is why I stay control now, Keaton. Here I was telling them, I don't want to hear freedom is a must, enough strength, hold it down. I don't want to hear them things. Tell that young man something that could carry him. One boy tell me time, boy, Mr. Mtima, I don't deal with you. I said, I don't care about that. You could still tell him something positive. And he did. So that is why there's enforced more. Hey, I see man in charge here.
Yeah.
So, it could vary.
Well, I'd tell you what, Mr. Sowas, we're going to take a break because I want to welcome these two other guests with us this morning. But there's something there very profound. Your last meal is when you go to the gallows, but you are instigating that sense of this is where my life starts. Your first meal in the free world.
What do you mean? First, and Keaton, I challenge them. I said, they tell me they want oil, whatever they ask for, I organize it for them. Because I want to show them we could deliver, so you have to deliver when you go outside there. We could deliver. Ask me what you want. Tell me what you want. You want steak, lobster, we bring it for you. You have to deliver when you go outside there now. And I'm very serious about that.
Well, Mr. Solwazi, let's take a quick break here on the program. When we return, we're going to get into some further conversation. Thanks for being with us, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be right back after this.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus, quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for, it's called loss and damage. And we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region.
Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really
respond to me. Respond to me how you would respond to me.
The first question I'll ask is why?
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
Welcome back to AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for being with us once more this morning. As we continue with our conversation, once more I'm joined by Mr. MT Masolwazi. Thank you very much for being with us this morning, sir. But it gives me great pleasure in welcoming two members of the Roots Foundation at TT. Let me start, sir, by welcoming Mr. Jaron Ruiz. Good morning, sir, and welcome to AM Prime. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
And also joining us is Miss Kelsey Brown. Good morning, Miss Brown. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, good morning. Glad to be here.
Well, let me start with you, Miss Brown, and ask you, how did you get involved with Roots Foundation, and what is it that you actually do? What is the role that you think you have to play in the work and the efforts on the part of Roots Foundation TT?
Right. So, well, I'm a spoken word artist, I've been doing poetry extensively for a couple of years now, and during the pandemic, that was 2020, Roots Foundation was hosting a poetry slam, and I entered the slam, made it all the way to the finals, and that is really how I got involved with Roots. That was my first, real performance, real slam kind of setting. And, from there, of course, Tima kept in touch, and, he let me know about different things that Roots was doing. And I was like, yes, this sounds good. I want to be a part of this. And since then, it's, just been getting involved wherever I can, whatever they need me to do through my spoken word. That's what I've been doing.
What has Roots Foundation done for you? And by extension, what have you done for Roots Foundation?
Well, definitely they've, I would say they've helped me to travel. I believe it was in 2021, around there, Roots took a couple of us to New York, where they were kind of piloting their festival Cascadoo in New York. So we did different workshops there, different performances. And mainly what we do is, of course, bringing about social change and activism through oral traditions, so like spoken word, which is what I would do. So in terms of what I do for Roots, through my poems and, whatever little workshops that they're hosting, I would, come and try to, bring about a bigger message in that sense.
Well, Mr. Ruiz, thank you very much for being with us once more. And you too are a spoken word ambassador. From your standpoint, the power of spoken word, what do you think that power is? And exactly what does that power entail in respect to the purpose of Roots Foundation and for you as a youth ambassador?
So spoken word for me is it's basically a tool that one could use for social change. It's another arm that you can go down that road if you'd like. Basically, it's a voice. It's giving a voice to a particular topic, to a particular issue, to a particular social change. And spoken word allows you to do that in basically a creative way. It's easy to go by a podium and say a speech, but that mightn't grasp everyone. But if you tell a story from somebody's perspective, if you tell a story that grabs someone and a story that interests someone, they then begin to hear it and look at it through a different lens, and could then therefore relate it a little better. In terms of spoken word with Roots and what I think spoken word and where I think spoken word can be, I think spoken word belongs on every stage. I think spoken word should be broadcasted and air blasted, radio blasted everywhere. I think it needs to reach as many eyes and ears as it possibly could, so that the message and so that the mission could be completed in terms of social activism and social change.
What is your mission in particular in respect to social activism? I mean, what are the things that you want to change or that you want to be a part of that leads to change?
So for me personally, I'm very steadfast in assisting with the Venezuelan immigration crisis in Trinidad and Tobago. It's something that I have been passionate about for the last, I can't remember how many years. I've been passionate about it for quite some time. And it's something that I am passionate about because I do believe that Trinidad is a place where we should be welcoming persons with open arms. And, if they're looking for refuge, they're not coming here because they're choosing to, or because it's something that they want to do. They don't want to leave their home. It's something that they're trying to do for safety, and they come here for safety and end up under eyes of discrimination and prejudice and a whole bunch of negative stuff. So that is something that I definitely am passionate about, assisting and making their lives better in any way I could.
And in respect to helping fellow youth and assisting fellow youth, what role do you think you have to play in doing that?
Just being a positive influence, just being a positive, basically a model that people could look to and say, well, if he's doing it, I could do it as well. If he could reach on those stages, I could reach on those stages. If if he could bring about this form of change, I could bring about this form of change. So stuff along those lines. I just want to be a model and a role model, a good role model for young persons as well.
Ms. Brown, coming back to, I'm trying to blend what both you and Mr. Rees have mentioned this morning. Very, very similar, of course. And I'm curious to know, in your opinion, what is a good role model in the era that we speak of, in the age and how society is now? What do you think is a good role model? What should a good role model be made of?
Well, when it comes to being a good role model, of course, you want to have a positive influence on others. Of course, we see, the state that our country is in, especially when it comes to youth being involved in criminal activity. Being a good role model would be showing them that there is more to life than just that, and showing them that it doesn't have to be the only way, despite, circumstances, the situation that you're in. There is something more for you out there. So, being a agent of positive change in that sense is about, showing them. And I think through spoken word and other types of art, I think that's so important because I feel like art is very therapeutic for the soul. And I feel like if you can bring across a message to them in that way, I feel like that's a good way to be, a positive role model on them and show them that there is more to life. I feel like that's most important because a lot of these disenfranchised youth feel like, okay, this is it for me. This is what I know. This is what I grew up in. So this is all that there is for me. But it's not,
Mm-hmm. Well, when you spoke about therapy for the soul, so Mr. Solowaz and Mr. Rees, the head shake, like they synchronize that head shake, man. So that's good. It seems as though everybody is on the same page. But I'm most pleased to welcome Mr. Rees and Ms. Brown to the program this morning because I did ask Mr. Solowaz last week if we can have some of the artists come and present their own pieces this morning. So I don't know if I'm putting you on the spot. I hope Mr. Solowaz told you, but I hope that you guys can present some pieces this morning. Mr. Rees, I'm going to give you the opportunity if you'd like to go ahead and start us off with your piece. And you can tell us about your piece and, exactly the meaning behind it. So if you'd like to start, the floor is all yours.
Of course. Thank you very much. I don't typically like to do a lot of speaking before my pieces. I typically like to let my pieces speak for themselves. But funnily enough, my piece is on the Venezuelan immigration crisis that we are having in Trinidad. I wrote this a couple of years ago, and it is it pains me to know that the piece is still as relevant today as it was 3 or 4 years ago when I wrote it. But I'll just start, and you'll should get the message. These Vennies only come in for two things: we job and people gal. For real. That's what you feel. You think they had a big meeting before coming, like, okay, here's the plan. Us men go in and invade every and any supermarket and corner store. Women, to distract them, go knocking on every happy relationship door. We'll go in small numbers at first to make sure it don't look like an attack. But soon, the whole island will be named Venida. That's what you think happened, player? I mean, it's not like the country was under constant pressure and danger. It's not like if they walked to the shop and back, they could get kidnapped by random strangers. You have the facts straighter than any citizen or politician. You did the research and sniff out the Venezuelan secret mission. You found the truth and placed prejudice on anyone coming out of that nation. But what if I told you that that wasn't their true ambitions? What if I told you that these people just wanted a better life? What if I told you that they were tired of hearing wars at night? What if I told you that they had no brightly shining armored knights? And what if I told you that Trinidad was a beacon to their fading sight? Would your mind change? Or would you still say, these people came because they wanted to? Let's switch the view. What if it was you? Trinidad became an outcast, crime rates higher than ever, and no neighboring countries reaching out fast, gangs running rampant, and you can't be out past 6, because that's when the sound that clips getting unloaded could be heard the most. But then on the western coast, you and your family board a boat to a foreign land. Suddenly there's hope, even though you don't know the words being spoke, but it's better than the country you left, because you could still smell the fire smoke from the riots that you saw firsthand. But then suddenly you turned into a joke, and the people claim that you only come there for their jobs and people, man. No, but they want to be better than us. They're not asking to be better than. They're asking to be equal to. They're not asking for you to hold their hand. They're asking for you to cut them loose from the shackles of racism and the poles of discrimination that you've tied them to. They're not asking for everything. They're asking to be just like you. But why should I care about how we operate now? Probably because that's what this country was all about. We never sit back when persons were in need, and that's what made us stand out. We were the land of opportunity in the Caribbean. Something going on home, come, build a house. And it seemed like the people from the past could come and teach us a lesson now. African, Indian, Chinese, they were all here at the same time. Some came as slaves, but they made something out of their lives. Literal blood, sweat, and tears, shared as they stood side by side. But now there's a divide. You have what's yours and I'll have what's mine. Venezuelans on some of it? Nah, take your time. You less than me, so go to the back of the line, right? How come you're going to be writing posts on Black Lives Matter on Facebook to liking and reposting Veni jokes? How are you going to be fighting a war in another country but want to go and, how are you going to be the problem in your own country but want to go and fight a war in another land? You don't see how degrading a whole nationality could cause us harm? Oh gosh, stop it now. It's only when something happens to the venue who does wash your car or touch your parts is when you just want to be up in arms. And ladies, not every good-looking Venezuelan wants your man. If his head could turn so easy, then that was not your man. But that is for an next one. All I'm asking is that you give them a chance. I know they're not all good, but that doesn't mean that they're all bad. And again, I'm not asking for you to hold their hand. Just start by not belittling them and making them feel like they're lesser than. And one more thing for you to think about, and yes, I'm being generic when I say this, but why is being bilingual such a big thing, but being a Veni makes it basic? Strange. Thank you.
I'm not speechless because there were so many points there and so many emotions. I think that's one of the powerful things about spoken word. There's so many emotions that you feel at the same time that you don't know what to feel. You know, it hits you so fast, it hits you so quickly, you don't know exactly what to feel. When you spoke about people of the past maybe teaching us a lesson now, you know, it hits you differently. When you spoke about, you know, they're not asking us to hold their hand, but to cut them loose. You know, it speaks to everything that these individuals have faced. And you will never know it, you'll never experience it, but it really hits you so fast. Ms. Rees, I want to thank you very much for that. And I'm curious to know, though, you said something before you started your piece. You said, it's still relevant today as it was 4 or 5 years ago. Does that trouble you? Does that make you feel angry or hurt in any way?
Not so much angry, just disappointed. And it still fuels me with the same fire to still fight for the change, to still stand for what I believe in, basically. Not to get angry about it, but to keep pushing for change.
It still fuels you. It still fuels you. Wow. The activism doesn't end no matter how frustrated you might feel. It really doesn't end. Let me come across now to Ms. Brown, and I want to welcome you back, Ms. Brown. Thank you once more for being with us this morning. And, you know, if you'd like to do the same, I don't know if you prefer to speak to us about your piece or what you were thinking or feeling when you wrote it, and then go into it. It's all entirely up to you. Ms. Brown, the floor is yours.
Yes, so this piece that I'm going to do, it's entitled An Ode to Steel Pan. What an ode is, it's a celebratory poem. And, you know, last year we had, well, I think it was the first World Steel Pan Day. Of course, we are still in August, so it's Steel Pan Month. And also, you know, the steel pan is now going to be on the coat of arms, which I think is a really nice thing for the country. I feel like, you know, sometimes we tend to focus a lot on the negative and this need to fix and that need to fix, but I feel our identity, our culture is something that we should also celebrate. So this poem, I did write it a few years ago. I'm also a panist, so it felt very fitting. And this type of poem, what I intend to do with it, every year around Carnival, you know, new soca comes out, new music comes out, I try to include new lyrics from that Carnival season in it. So I'm just gonna get it here. Forge from the love of the unexpected sounds of abandoned oil drums. They bravely beat one man's trash into our treasure, the steel pan. Trinidad and Tobago's 20th century baby with humble beginnings, it carried a badge and stigma on its strings synonymous with melodies and misfits. Pan playing and bottles breaking, fellas fighting, but music still making. Eventually, the pan crescendoed to new heights, its unlimited potential being celebrated and recognized both locally and worldwide. It even made a debut on Google Doodle too. As a panist, proudly hitting those sweet steel notes serenades my soul and bombards my body with feelings of euphoria that command me to dance and dingle it, hey. Each groove in the pan rings out a rich history of a people who are just as unique as their instrument. Every harmony tells the story of our culture, the way we belt out our tales like tunes, how our humor is sharp but our personality never falls flat. In fact, it bounces on the laughter of a melody. The pan is so diverse and complex it can form its own orchestra, independent of any mother instrument, to drown it out, unapologetic of the music it creates and unashamed to be Trinbagonian. And whenever Panorama rolls around, every pan is singing, "We time coming back again." So whether you're in the savannah or the grandstand, it's our vibe in the session when we jam into the steel pan. Music doesn't discriminate, and pan is the same. Here, every creed and race find an equal place in the pan yard or rhythm section, so kudos to you, Winston, and every other pan trailblazer who continue to create a legacy. You are the real Iron Man, oh, they're sweeter than when they lick the pan. And to you, the audience, I hope you get to taste our creation. I hope you get to hear pan in A minor and dip all of your senses in our culture. Let the steel pan make you rock and sway like tambule, because Trinbago is pan.
You know, you sing you sing like that, and every time you spoke to the lyrics or you fused the lyrics of past calypsos or soukahs, I'm hearing the steel pan in my head, because all those songs that you mentioned, those are Panorama songs. You know, those are Panorama songs, and that's incredible. But what a profound time, even more ever than now, to present this, where you said music does not discriminate and every creed and race finds an equal place in a steel pan yard. And I think we tend to forget that. I think we really tend to forget that. Subtle but very powerful messages. Thank you very much, Ms. Brown. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Mr. Solwazi, I think really you've brought a sense of what our young people here in TNT have. Not only the potential within, but the work that they are doing to bring it out in themselves and in others. So, Mr. Solwazi, thank you very much for last week. Thank you very much for this morning, and thank you very much for Roots Foundation. This has been an absolute pleasure, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And I think, need I say, this is not the last time we would be seeing each other or speaking to each other. There's a lot more to be said and a lot more to be done. And
Yes.
Ms. Brown, I thank you very, very much. We look forward to, who knows, maybe you opening Panorama in the not too distant future with one of your pieces. And Mr. Ruiz, your efforts are not in vain at all. So all that you may feel and all that you may think, good things will only come. Thank you very much to both you for joining me on AM this morning.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've had an excellent start to the week. It doesn't end here. We'll continue with young people, their potential and their activism when we return to AM Pride. We'll be right back.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug. You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God, so we cannot have a stalemate.
We'll focus on the woman who's being the victim,
right,
or the man who's being the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI, worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
In the studio now, you don't need to register nothing. You don't need, we can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe in different criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploited the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment. Folks, we're back and better than ever.
Your show have always appeared to be a show that is focused on going to the cause or looking to the cause.
We hardly ever talk about the white-collar crime, though. We always talk about the ones that involve more as physical violence against individuals.
The citizens will only measure transmission when water starts to flow through their taps.
The Constitution doesn't talk about local election.
Contract mafia is responsible for looting the country and they own and operate these politicians.
So if you are running a country and you can't say nothing as a prime minister, please take up your bag and go.
It is not comparative to the murder figures, but it is in fact very high.
I believe he's protecting certain individuals.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm not to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg,
control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the chief to lose so? Why you want the chief to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the chief's getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
of this game.
not no.
Let's go to the last part.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really want
to me. Respond to me how you would respond to me.
I would, the first question I'll ask is why?
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, so we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
Welcome back to AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being with us this morning as we continue the conversations, getting into our last. When you speak about Trinidad and Tobago, many people might feel rather frustrated. Now, we have a lot of positives. There's a lot of beauty. There is no doubt about that. But how do we preserve this beauty or even extend this beauty for years and years to come? And you might wonder, hold on, politics is not everything, but politics has a major role to play in it. And it's not just a matter of politics. Put politics aside for a moment. Simple, basic little things like building society or community development stems from who exists where. That's all part of it, ladies and gentlemen. You can't run from that. You can't deny it. You can't doubt it. But sometimes we all need a portal to put forward our thoughts and ideas. We need a portal where we can speak our minds openly, where we can express our frustrations. But we need a portal for action. We need a portal that aims to actually get that work done, that aims to advocate on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, a portal that is for nation builders by nation builders. And that's exactly what our part TT intends to do. Our part TT actually stands for Our Portal for Accountability and Representation for TNT. Sounds new to you? Well, it's new to me as well. So let's get a bit more information as I welcome the Chief Executive Officer of our part TT, Mr. Rodolphe Hanamji. Good morning, sir. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Good morning, Keaton, and same to all of our fellow citizens. I'm so happy to be here.
Indeed. Well, Mr. Hanamji, please tell me more about our part TT. You know, how was this idea born, and the background, the origins, and the intentions or the missions of the organization?
Keaton, if I'm quite straightforward, it's one of those things that where the universe has aligned. I don't believe in coincidences, and I think each of us, when we look back on our journey to our present, you will see how many dots have actually connected across your life. And if you live a life where you are present in the moment and you acknowledge all of the privileges and the blessings that you do have in our great nation, you can identify your own path as to where you can leverage those privileges and experiences to make a better Trinidad and Tobago in your own way. And I have been involved in human rights activity since I was 15 years old at Queen's Royal College. That's 25 years ago. I have been an executive member of a political party. I have been involved in community advocacy and a number of national development initiatives. And where I sit, Keaton, now, and I look at my country, we have so many wonderful potential benefits that we can reap. However, we are mired in some very critical challenges that we must overcome. So in talking with several groups, individuals, and looking back at some of my experiences, I thought it was time for us as a group of citizens, as nation builders, to really get together, leverage technology, and also best practices in sustainable community development and public innovation and create this movement where we can bring different minds together and start that conversion process where we begin to fulfill our potential. So it's really something born out of a personal passion where you have to be very clear about your purpose. It's about building the Trinidad and Tobago that we would all like to see if we could close our eyes and imagine it. It's about using that purpose to connect with people, because people are at the core what we are doing all of this work for. And together with those people, we can actually identify the right policies and get them implemented in short order.
You spoke about realizing and achieving our full potential. You also described some of the ideals or some of the things that is hoped to be achieved. So that speaks to objectives. But when you speak about true potential, what do you think is the true potential of TNT?
Interestingly, you should ask that question because that is the aim of the first project under the Our Part umbrella, which is entitled TT100. And I often say to people when I have these meetings with them or workshops, I say, if you could close your eyes, Keaton, and imagine Trinidad and Tobago when we celebrate that 100th year of independence or Republican status, what would you see in front of you? And I, as a member of the millennial generation, believe that I can see a country that is clean, where people are smiling and fulfilling their personal potential, where everything works, where we have reduced childhood poverty and all kinds of vulnerabilities and at-risk communities to near zero, where there really is water for all. We've diversified our economy. While we do still have oil and gas initiatives, we've been able to develop our creative sector, sporting, ICT areas, and all of these plans that Keaton, as I said, I've been a part of developing national plans in the tourism sector, fintech, in manufacturing. These plans we have invested in as citizens through taxpayers' dollars, and they sit there in ministries. And the average citizen, of course, would not have access to these or have the time to read them. But some of us do. And if we are able to implement those policies, Keaton, we can make a difference and we can actually have a country where our quality of life indicators are in the top percentile of the entire world. I really believe that. And that's why we're meeting with people to get a concerted view, a coalescing of thought around some of the key pillars that would really make Trinidad and Tobago the best that it can be.
You also speak about nation builders. I mean, the poster that I saw, the first thing is nation builders needed. And throughout the course of the program and reading a bit more actually about our party team, the word patriots is used quite a number of times. So, our party team, from their perspective, what would you define a patriot as?
A patriot is very simply someone who is quite capable of accepting that the country must be put ahead of any other considerations. And I know it sounds a bit idealistic, but when you look at our forefathers and what our ancestors went through to get us to where we are today, in many ways, many forms, they have put the country, not all of them, but I would like to say the majority of them did put Trinidad and Tobago ahead of some of their own personal goals. Because think about it, when you invest into your children and the future generations, when, Keaton, you sacrifice your personal interests for that generation, what are you really doing? You are saying that there is something greater than myself, that I am willing to go without so that my children can have opportunities that I didn't have. And long after I am no longer on this planet, those generations will benefit. So patriotism to me is within all of us. And many of us do it each day in our own way. those of us that follow the regulations. When you're in traffic, you don't drive down the shoulder. Those of us that speak of our country in glowing terms, despite all the challenges that we have. And those of us who in each of our professions, like yourself in the media, ensure that we have constructive conversations and we use critical thinking to look for solutions to our challenges rather than downcrying the nation. So patriotism can take many forms, and it's not one size fits all. But I do think from the youngest to the oldest amongst us, there are patriots in all Trinidad and Tobago citizens.
With respect to the projects on our part, TT, and call for nation builders, I know that there are 6 key projects.
Yeah.
Could you please speak to me a bit more about these 6 key projects now?
Certainly, and these projects are not necessarily new under the sun, but what we've done, and my part of my background is in innovation and public policy development, is we've taken concepts like consultation and actual national development best practices, and we've created a system. So the innovation really is in the integration amongst the 6 projects and the way that we're going to approach those projects. So I mentioned the first one, which is really underscoring a consensus position amongst a broad coalition of interests, such as farmers, teachers, single mothers, etc., as to what are the common pillars that we want to try and aspire to, as our motto says, and eventually achieve. So that's creating that vision for Trinidad and Tobago. And once we have that vision, Keaton, we then need to align the how do we achieve that with the 17 sustainable development goals that the United Nations has created for the entire world. And that's where the second project, entitled Inspire 360, comes in. So we're looking for younger and older people in those 17 areas who will come together and create objective assessments and roadmaps for each of those 17 areas. They will then form part of the first ever national think tank entitled SPREE. It's named after one of the fathers of the steel pan, because I think that that is the greatest symbol of innovation in the entire world. You see something rusty and rotting in the mud, and you're able to reimagine that into the most beautiful instrument, to my mind, in the world. And so they're going to create a think tank with other persons working outside of the Inspire 360 project. And take, for example, you have a challenge like traffic. You put that on the table for the think tank, and they are able to develop creative and innovative solutions using some of the already existing ideas. When you have those ideas, you have those solutions, you need to mobilize the community. So that is where project number 4, Pansu Collective, comes in. The Pansu Collective quickly takes the best of the Panchayat and the Susu models, which helped our ancestors to develop empowerment and economic feasibility and independence. And it is going to create a center of excellence for NGOs and CBOs across Trinidad and Tobago. So those same people from the think tank and Inspire 360, they will work alongside NGOs and CBOs to provide technical assistance, financial opportunities, and support systems that ensure that our civil society is more effective. And the vision there is that if you actually solve some of these national problems, you won't need as many NGOs and CBOs, and that money and expertise can be used into other activities. And the 5th project is entitled Just TT. It's a leadership academy. So people who want, especially younger people who want to learn about justice, ethics, diversity, inclusion, we're going to partner with existing programs and create some of our own so that we can start shaping the leaders of tomorrow. Because you do have to have a political arm of this at some point, but you need to have the right people to fill those positions and take up spaces so that when they represent persons, they do it from a place of ethics and national pride. And the last project is an overarching campaign called the Land of And. It's a play on, of course, the ampersand within our name. And what it's really saying, Keaton, is that in Trinidad and Tobago, we don't have to have an either or position. We can walk and chew gum and laugh and develop at the same time. So we can have tourism and oil and gas. We can have young and old building together. So that is the whole campaign that will really reinstill a sense of pride, and it will push back against a lot of the negatives that people unfortunately buy into, because that's just how negativity in marketing, we know, spreads faster than positivity. So it's those 6 integrated projects, and of course I try to rush through them, but people can visit ourpart.org to learn more about the projects.
Negativity spreads more than positivity. Isn't that true?
It does.
What's interesting to Mr. Namji is that you explain it brilliantly. That it tells me that these 6 key projects that are being focused on in our part TT are actually all linked. So there's some sort of linkage between project 1, project 2, etc. I'm curious to know, though, are there any ongoing projects or activities on the part of the organization?
So as you would have intimated at the beginning, this process didn't begin yesterday. And what has been happening in the interregnum period is that we have developed a series of working groups for each of the projects. And those working groups have been already meeting with NGOs and CBOs. We have onboarded 5 young persons already out of the 17 that we have targeted. We have started compiling a series of national reports. We've launched our own podcast entitled Unboxing T&T, where we look at national issues layer by layer. And we have onboarded over 5 NGOs already to the Pansu Collective. One of them, as a matter of fact, is a farmers collective that hopes to represent the 56,000 farmers across Trinidad and Tobago. And we are working with them to develop a national strategic plan for farmers mobilization. So there is a series of developmental work for the organization. As we're saying, if we wish the country to run and walk at the same time, then we have to be able to do that. So and that's why we're so happy to be here to chat with you, because we think we're at a position now where we can take the work to a more public level. We have some of the structures in place. We have a code of conduct that persons have to sign on to. And we have a series of workshops also planned over the next few weeks into the new year. So a lot of moving parts, but it's a fantastic team. The COO, Anarian Mason, has been working alongside myself, and a shout out to that team that has been doing a lot of background work selflessly over the last year.
I'm curious to know, Mr. Namji, is this the genesis of a new political organization or institution, or is this non-political at all?
Our part will always remain non-political in terms of it is going to objectively, as the name suggests, hold all national leaders, whether they're politicians or public servants, to account, and it will demand representation from those who are paid to represent us. But to be very transparent, the reason that we have a leadership academy and the reason that we want to develop a vision and policies that align with that vision for the country is that we do hope to inform the politics, Keaton. So we would love to see graduates of our programs, persons who buy into this concept of nation building and patriotism. We would like to see those type of individuals eventually vie for political office. And if they uphold the value system and they can truly demonstrate the new politics that we have always talked about since the 80s, but we really can't seem to have achieved it yet, then I would say that they would have their own gold standard marks coming out of the assessments that our part will be engaging in. If they don't follow those systems, then they're not going to be happy with the marks that they get. So their policy, Keaton, at the end of the day, the word policy and politics they both sound familiar because they are connected. Without the right policies and the effective implementation of those policies, we will not have the changes that we need. So fortunately, unfortunately, you have to get the politics involved, but you have to get the right politics. And I will always remember in my business ethics course at UE, in the last class, Dr. Arjun had us host a debate, and I was on the negative for the statement politics has a morality of its own, which was famously coined, of course, by Mr. Pandey. And my closing sentiment in my debate was, it is not politics, Keaton, that has a morality of its own, it's politicians. And if through initiatives like our part, citizens can truly and effectively mobilize and unite around what are the values we want in our politics, I think we can positively influence those politicians who wish to represent us, and we can get the best of us in office. So that's why initiatives like these are important, because we need to get the politics right as well. So there is a connection, but the Our Part organization itself will not become a political party. And even if people who graduate from our programs breach ethical standards, they will also be held accountable.
That is most interesting. If people wanted to find out a bit more, because I know that there is a call to action now on the part of the organization, if people wanted to find out more, and because they're in a position to decide whether or not I want to be a part of Our Part TT, how do they do that? Where can they go to?
We have made it as easy as we can. So Our Part, with 2 T's, of course, as you said, .org, or you can search for us on Instagram, X, and Facebook. Just search for Our Part, and you can always simply reach out to myself or Naren Mason, Rudolph Hanamji. I'm on all social media platforms. The idea here, Peter, at the end of the day, is that if I do my part, you do your part, then together we do our part to bring the kind of accountability and representation to Trinidad and Tobago. So go to Our Part, OURPARTT.org, and all of our contact information is there, and you can get involved today and make a difference.
Mr. Hanamji, your closing statements to the viewers this morning.
Put TNT first, even ahead of some of your own interests. And you have to understand that each of us has our part. And yes, we keep making the pun. You have your part to play in all of this, but you can't do it alone. So we need to act together, define what kind of country we want to have it for the future, for our generations and those afterwards. And let us get involved and build TNT. So as I said before, I'll do my part, you do your part, and we'll do our part together.
Mr. Hanamji, thank you very much for joining me on the program this morning, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
For being with us. Of course, you can reach out. I'll just reiterate once more. You can visit the website at www.ourpart, and bearing in mind it's 2 T's, ourpart.org. You can email we must do at ourpart.org, or you can call 480-9470 for more information, or if you think that you have a role to play, or you indeed would like to find out how you can do your part in respect to nation builders, or you just need more information, reach out to those handles. Mr. Hanamji, thank you very much. Take care. All the very best.
Thank you again. Be safe.
Keep up. Ladies and gentlemen, that signals the end of AM Prime for today. Thank you very much to all my guests for joining me on the program this morning. We always try to do something a bit different. There is a lot taking place in TNT, but oftentimes it's focused on the same things in respect to crime, the economy, this and that, this politics. Yes, that has a role to play indeed. I'll never doubt nor deny that. But there's a lot of good happening, and I'm glad that we are able to highlight that at times. There are a lot of organizations who are working hard, and there are lots of people who are playing their role to try and change all this negative into something positive. So AM Prime will always serve as a platform for all. And that's it. So thank you very much to my team, Josh, Alexander, and of course our good friend in Milewood for all his hard work and efforts. He has taken over the role of Ryan Gomez-Burke temporarily. We've decided to give Ryan Gomez-Burke a break. I think it's more so a break for us from Ryan Gomez-Burke. But he'll be back with us soon. So, of course, to Mr. Alexander and Mr. Malwood, thank you very much for that. I'm Keaton Charlie, ladies and gentlemen. Remind you, today is a good day to have a good day. And I'll see you again, hopefully, very soon. Bye-bye.
WESN.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Sunday, as residents of Sillingham paid their respects
to the victims of Friday night's stabbing attack at a town celebration, an attack already factoring into the country's debate on immigration.
Just heard that the far-right youth party is talking about coming together today here. So of course we are all very afraid that the right wing is getting more and more power, and that's definitely not the way. Of course we have to ask some hard questions, but racism is never the answer.
Indeed, the far-right Alternative for Germany's youth wing lit candles and lay flowers in front of a banner that read, "Our people first." Furthermore, a prominent figure in the centre-right CDU opposition party has called for the country to stop taking in refugees from Syria and Afghanistan in response to the attack. This after the 26-year-old suspect who turned himself in to police over the stabbing was revealed to be from Syria and to have filed an asylum claim in 2022.
We're investigating, among other things, murder and attempted murder, and which also explains the jurisdiction of the Federal Public Prosecutor General, membership of a foreign terrorist organization, namely the so-called Islamic State group.
Prosecutors say the suspect, Issa al-H, shared the ideology of the radical Islamist terror organization and was acting on those beliefs when he stabbed his victims repeatedly. Islamic State have claimed responsibility for the attack, which they say targeted Christians to, in their words, avenge Muslims in Palestine and everywhere, although they have provided no evidence of their involvement. A 15-year-old was also arrested on Saturday, suspected of having knowledge of the planned attack.
Next, Telegram's chief executive remains in police custody here in France. Pavel Durov was arrested outside Paris on Sunday as his private jet returned from Azerbaijan. Authorities accuse the platform of failing to curb criminal activity and to cooperate with police. The encrypted messaging app says its founder has nothing to hide and that it's absurd to arrest a social network's owner over users' abuse of the platform. Durov was born in Russia but fled amid conflict with authorities over his previous venture, the VK site that is known as Russia's Facebook. Russian authorities have denounced his arrest, calling him a political prisoner. Australian workers now have a new right, the right to disconnect. As of Monday, millions of employees are allowed to ignore work-related calls out of business hours, as well as emails and texts. Unions are celebrating the move, saying it will return a modicum of work-life balance to overworked Australians. Industry groups, though, say the law was hastily rolled out with confusing and somewhat unclear provisions. More than 70% of employees here in the EU are covered by some kind of right to disconnect law. Let's hear from one Australian worker who's happy to join those ranks.
I think it'll actually bring a lot of things into perspective, in the sense that you'll see what you need to prioritise first, and then based off that, the productivity will raise because you're not being micromanaged, you're not having someone breathing down your neck after hours as well as in hours, and like I said, you know what you need to do, just do it.
I never check my emails. Next, it's been less than a week since its launch, but the Chinese video game Black Myth Wukong has already become China's most successful single-player video game. Internationally, it's also selling well, with millions of copies moved. Yet the game is creating a bit of controversy online. Solange Moujan has more.
Over 10 million copies sold in its first 3 days of sales. It is China's most successful single-player video game to date. After $53 million in pre-sales prior to its launch Tuesday, Black Myth Wukong is flying off shelves and raking in millions.
I'm stunned. In my decades-old career here, I've never experienced this.
The game is China's first AAA production, or a major big-budget video game. Highly anticipated since its teaser was released 4 years ago, Black Myth Wukong is based on Journey to the West, a classic of Chinese literature. It is about a mythological monkey king who can shapeshift and has gained supernatural powers through Taoism. Highlighting Chinese folklore, the game has quickly become a source of pride. But it's also a challenge for audiences that have not read the 16th century novel it's based on.
Judging from the first wave of overseas media reviews of the game, points were mostly deducted because players need to read the Journey to the West before they can better understand the game. This is a challenge. We need a process to slowly let overseas players and media understand our culture.
Already a commercial success, the game has also created controversy over a do's and don'ts list that was released by the game's co-publisher. Reposted on social media, it instructed streamers to avoid discussions that include politics, violence, nudity, feminist propaganda, fetishization, and other content that instigates negative discourse. Some players have boycotted the game, citing censorship. Others have defied the directives, with over 100 being banned on Chinese social media for breaking guidelines in discussing Black Myth Wukong.
The Paralympic flame has arrived here in France 3 days ahead of the opening ceremony set for Paris. It arrived from the UK, carried by British athletes, and will make its way through a number of French towns and cities before being used to light the Olympic cauldron on Wednesday. Nicholas Rushworth and our colleagues at France 2 tell us more.
A Channel Tunnel exit for Paralympic torchbearers who were greeted to rapturous applause in Calais. A special moment for those carrying the flame.
It's a lifelong dream. To think that you're one of the few people who will have the opportunity to touch this flame as it travels across the country is just exceptional.
Prior to that handover, a group of 24 British Paralympic athletes handed over the flame to French counterparts in the tunnel itself at the midway point. The flame's 12 offshoots now go to various towns and cities in France before being used to light the Paralympic cauldron in Paris on Wednesday. 2 sports-packed weeks of competition and events are going to get underway. The president of the French Paralympic and Sports Committee, who won 2 athletics golds in Rio, says there is a special magic to events.
What's at stake here is to give the Games the acclaim they deserve. French people and people worldwide should understand that they are above all of a very high standard. They are extraordinary athletes, not because of their handicap, but because of their level of training and performance.
Organisers are promising a groundbreaking spectacle for the opening ceremony as thousands of athletes and tens of thousands of spectators gather for the Paris Paralympic Games.
Well, that's it for this bulletin from myself and all the team. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. There's much more world news and information coming up in just a moment's time right here on France 24.
The best of culture every day on France 24. With exclusive interviews with the most talked about people in entertainment, Arts 24's Eve Jackson and Olivia Salazar-Winspear bring you the latest from the world of art and entertainment. Our critics Marjorie Hash and Florence Villeminot speak to the biggest names in music. And Lisa Nesselson and Deeptika Laurent share the newest must-see films and TV series.
Join us every day for the latest news from the world of culture on Arts 24.
I'm Sarah Morris, France 24 correspondent based in Madrid, bringing you news, reports and analysis on Spain and Portugal. So join me here on France 24.
Sarah Morris, one of the 200 France 24 correspondents around the world.
Hello and welcome to Around the World here on France 24. I'm Nadia Massi. The world news headlines. Telegram says its CEO has nothing to hide as Pavel Durov is questioned by French authorities for a second day. The Russian-born billionaire detained as his private jet landed near Paris over the weekend. Russia fires hundreds of drones and missiles towards Ukraine, killing 4 people and triggering electricity blackouts. Commuters in Kyiv forced to shelter in metro stations this morning. And President Macron hosts far-right leaders Jordan Bardella and Marine Le Pen today. Pressure mounting then on the French president to name his prime minister after weeks of political deadlock. Good to have you with us. Also coming up in this hour, there are now just 2 days to go until the Paralympics get underway, and the flame has arrived here in France after making its journey across the Channel from England, where the Games began. Welcome. Today, the CEO of the messaging app Telegram, Pavel Durov, is being questioned by French authorities for a second day. The billionaire was detained late on Saturday after his private jet touched down just north of Paris. Durov is a dual French-Russian national, and the Kremlin have said they do not know why he was arrested. Now, meanwhile, in a statement, Telegram itself has said that Durov has nothing to hide. With what we know so far about the case, here's France 24's Delano de Souza.
Located on the outskirts of Paris, this is the building where Pavel Durov is being questioned. The 39-year-old founder of Telegram saw his detention extended late Sunday by the investigating magistrate in the case. French media reported the Franco-Russian billionaire was the subject of an arrest warrant issued by France. Authorities in Moscow, meanwhile, say they're waiting for more details.
We don't know exactly what Durov is accused of. We haven't heard any official statements. Before saying something, we should wait for clarifying the situation, for charges against him.
Dubai-based Telegram boasts nearly 1 billion users, but the messaging app has been criticized for its failure to moderate extreme content. While the company says it's got nothing to hide, Russian lawmakers claim Pavel Durov is being made a pawn.
They have a hostage, and they will try to blackmail Russia. They will try to blackmail all the users of Telegram, that now they're not going to just gain control, but they will probably try to block the network here in Russia.
Moscow has leapt to Pavel Durov's defense, even though he left the country in 2014 after coming under pressure from local authorities. While Durov remains a Russian citizen, he acquired French nationality in 2021. His initial period of questioning can last up to 96 hours, after which Pavel Durov can be released or kept in custody and charged.
Well, there are arguably more questions than answers at this stage as to the arrest of Durov. Our tech editor, Julia Seeger, has been looking into the story, and she may be able to answer a few of those questions for us. Now, Julia, first of all, do we know any more about his arrest?
No, since the beginning of his custody, we haven't had any information regarding the case. It has indeed, the custody has been extended, and it could last up to 96 hours, but that's usually what happens for terrorist suspects. Now, what we know is that the arrest warrant was issued by what we call OFFMAN here in France. It's an agency that's dedicated to combat violence against minors, and it's part of a preliminary probe for many alleged offenses, and they range from fraud, drug trafficking, cyberbullying, organized crime, to even the promotion of terrorism. Now, of course, he's not personally accused of it. We're not saying that he personally participated in cyberbullying or drug trafficking, but he's accused of not having done enough to stop the criminal use of Telegram, as asked also by the EU's Digital Markets Act, which is a law that was voted in by the EU recently. But that said, the search warrant was issued here in France. Now, so the first thing is that we're told that he didn't moderate the platform enough, and one of the problems with Telegram is that you have those groups that can accommodate up to 200,000 people. These are huge communities, and they're often singled out and accused of increasing the viral potential of certain content. And the second thing he's accused of is not collaborating enough with investigators when we're told he was asked to do so. Now, we're not told when he was asked to do so, how many times he was asked to do so, or in which case.
That does, though, fit with how Durov describes himself, because he sees himself as a libertarian, doesn't he?
That's right. He's very much committed to security and confidentiality of the personal data of his users, and also protecting freedom of speech. Now, the entire model of Telegram is based on this. So the conversations are encrypted end to end. This is a protocol that guarantees that the security of the communication. So that means that Telegram or other people, no one can actually access the information when it's being sent. Now, they've also chose transparency because the code is open source. This means that anybody in the public can come and audit the line of code to see if perhaps there's been a backdoor that's been added to it, and that's a choice, a transparency choice that Meta, for instance, hasn't made. When you look at their economic model, they don't resell or monetize the data, and they're also known historically to not easily collaborate, indeed, with governments or with law enforcement. Twice they've done it before, well, several times actually they've done it before, but it's only after several procedures. Now, some other platforms tend to do it more readily, for instance, by giving IP addresses or email addresses. Now, he said it several times, loud and clear, he won't answer to anybody. He hasn't answered to the Kremlin when the Kremlin asked him to shut down certain accounts, like Navalny's account, and he refused, and that's also why he left Russia. He won't receive orders from Paris or Washington either, let me tell you that. In an interview that he gave recently, there aren't many of interviews out there, but he gave an interview to Tucker Carlson, and he explained that the FBI had approached him to try to poach one of his coders, perhaps to create a backdoor. Of course, that's an information we can't verify, but it's not that surprising when we know also the history of certain programs that were set up by American Secret Services using personal information, including, for instance, the PRISP program that was revealed by Edward Snowden.
And is it the way that Telegram operates, particularly that confidentiality, the encryption you were talking about, that makes the app so popular?
Exactly. It's exactly why people go to Telegram, is because they know that their information is safe. It's been downloaded by more than almost 1 billion active users today. Probably next year they'll reach that amount of users. But it's also why, because it's so secure, you're going to have criminals on the platform, of course, but you're also going to have heads of states and also groups of opponents in countries where there's a lot of censorship. It's become extremely strategic, especially in the conflict opposing Ukraine and Russia, because Russian officials, but also Ukrainian officials, are using it. So pretty much what you have today is all the most strategic global conversations that are on Telegram, but with an encryption that is incredible.
Julia Seeger, great to get your take on this. Thanks very much indeed. In other news, explosions rang out in the centre of Kyiv this morning during rush hour as the Ukrainian military warned of a major Russian missile and drone attack. Commuters were forced to take shelter in metro stations amid what was the largest assault on the capital in weeks. Indeed, across Ukraine, 15 regions were targeted today, and the energy grid has been impacted, that forcing the Ukrainian government now to impose emergency blackouts. Our Ukraine correspondent, Gulliver Cragg, has this from Kyiv.
Well, as usual, the authorities are quite tight-lipped about exactly what damage has been done and where. I'm at the northern edge of Kyiv, and behind me is the road that goes to the dam at Vyshgorod. It's a hydroelectric power station. As you can perhaps see, the road is closed. It's clear that this hydroelectric power station was one of the targets. A video has been released of a missile falling into the Kyiv Sea, as it's known, the reservoir that the dam holds in above the city, but it seems that wasn't the only missile and that there is some damage. That, of course, always leads to fears that Kiev could be flooded, that the dam could burst. That's actually highly unlikely. It's very